she does her work. Na wakati tulikuwa na this topic ya mental wellness, I reached out to her and she was very encouraged and felt that she needed to come and give out her knowledge, whatever she understands. It may not be perfect, but she has some roadmap on what we can do. And she invited some of her colleagues and psychologists. We have Dr. Eunice Kavanga, if I'm not wrong, and others. So let's hear from them. Dr. Janet Shibonje Were. They all come from Kitengela, even though they are not Catholics. But remember, we encourage ecumenism. And if we get people who are giving us knowledge for free, do we have to say that you are not Catholic so you don't come and give us? Supposing we were going through a mental wellness session, how much would we pay for that? Just sitting and listening. We pay a lot, isn't it? Yeah, but now we want to hear this and then we can get in touch with them later so that they can help us in this journey. Daktari, welcome. Kabla daktari hajaanza, we get a word from our parish priest. Karibu sana, Father.
Thank you, Rose, and thank you, Eunice, together with your team and the hospital. And I thank you for getting this time to come so that we can resource one another. As we have heard before, mental health is capital. We need to take care of it. We need to be empowered so that we can also take care of others. So we are lucky to have them around us, experts who are going to talk to us on how to take care of our mental health. You also know very well that if I become mad now, nitoe nguo zangu, si mtatoroka? Mtatoroka? You run away. But when things are going on well, you'll want to come near me. So don't wait things when they are bad so that you can run away. Come closer to me when I'm okay. And when you can help me to avoid getting to that extent. So it is capital and it's very important to have this seminar. And I pray that you who are here, take home something and don't sit on it. Go out and also share. Sasa. Kwa hivyo watakapokuwa natuelezea juu ya afya ya akili, tafadhali muwe makini, take note, ask questions so that by the time you are going back home you are more enlightened. Kwa hivyo asanteni sana Rose, CJPD together with their health professional team that have decided to be here. They have been with us since morning. I know many of us have benefited from their services. Karibu sana. Makofi kwao. Thank you, thank you.
Wow, I'm short, eh? Good afternoon. Bwana asifiwe wa Kristo. Milele na milele, amina. Ningewaomba kama tunaweza songa mbele kidogo. You know, even shouting is also a sign of mental illness sometimes. So if we can protect that, let's move in front. Nawaomba. So that as others come, they can join us, isn't it? Okay, thank you very much. We are very grateful for the leadership of the Catholic Church, more so St. Monica. You know, the church has a special place in terms of promoting health. There can be a barrier or there can be a barrier to uptake of intervention, or they can be able to promote. And the church has a very special place as far as health is concerned. We being spiritual beings, we'll run to church, we'll run to whoever can help us to be able to support us. Therefore, as a hospital, the church is a very important partner that we work with in reaching out, because the church is a special community that we work with. Now, you would ask, what's my name? Most of the time I always forget to say my name. My name is Janet Mukoshi Shibonje Were. I am the proprietor of Chanif Hospital. Chanif simply means Community Health and Nutrition Foundation. It has got 3 components: the hospital component that you can see outside there. We do training, workplace wellness, and all sorts of training that we do. We also have now the foundation part, whereby now we are linking with the communities to be able to do various interventions. So together we shall be able to work more. As a facility, other than just providing healthcare, most of the times we always think health is about curative, health is about dawa. Health is the holistic well-being of a human being. What is holistic well-being? I could be having hypertension, but I am well because I check my blood pressure, I eat right, I'm able, to be able to achieve the activities of daily living. What we want to share today is for us to appreciate that as comfortable as you can be to talk about your blood pressure or your sick hand, we should be able to comfortably talk about our brain. We come from a society whereby there's a lot of stigma around matters to do with mental health. As a Luya, where I come from, I'm told, before you could marry a girl, they would ask, and then muangalie your aunties, mashangazi, enda muangalie huko watu wanakuanga wazimu, wanakuanga wachawi. Were there such stories? Those ones who are my age, kabla uwewe mtu. But we are all potential candidates for mental illness. Do you know why? There are people who are never born physically lame, isn't it? But they got an accident, and now they are on crutches, on a wheelchair, isn't it? So the same way, your brain, maybe you had even a tumor growing. There are so many things that could happen. We need to get to a level whereby, as a church, which is a community, but starts with you, how can you be helpful to yourself as far as matters to do with mental health are concerned? Will you be comfortable to step out and find help? And even as you step out, the people you're stepping out to, are they responsive enough to receive you without judgment? How many HR officers are here? Any HR officer? You can raise up your hand in your heart and head, for example. So me, I come, I've had some depression, my file is put somewhere mentally unstable. The next appraisal, you kick me out. How are you helping me? You're making me get worse, isn't it? And things are already hard outside here. So we work together as a team. The hospital, we work together as a team with academicians, psychiatrists, to be able to reach out to the community. So I will invite and introduce my team. With me, I have Dr. Nyavanga. So Dr. Nyavanga is a clinical psychologist with a world of experience. And I'll just say something. Many a times, when someone starts losing it, you rush them to Mathare. Actually, the procedure is they need to see a clinical psychologist first. And then from there, we'll be able to tell whether they need to go to Mathare or not. Sawa. I have my colleague, Martha Kilonzo. Martha is a counseling psychologist who I work with. I have Dr. Mbatha, Peter Mbatha. So all of them, you'll be able to hear them. So as a family, as a church, I am very grateful that you're all here, because out of this place, we are going together to have action plans of how we can prioritize matters, mental health, and even put a budget. You know, anything you plan and you don't put a budget, it cannot happen. I am hoping that the people who give insurance who are here, you're also going to improve your premiums as far as offering mental health issues are concerned. When you come for counseling, the sessions may be 3 to 4, 5, you should be able to support some of your members to take it up. I am hoping that even NHIF will get to a point whereby we'll have an allocation to take care of matters to do with mental health, isn't it? So this can only come out when we come together, and as a voice, we should be able to raise a concern and say we need this kind of services. Because we have got very little time, I'll be able to invite Dr. Nyavanga, who is going to take us through on what is mental health, causes of mental health, and treatment. Karibu, Daktari.
Good afternoon again. Nitaongea kwa Kiingereza kwa sababu Kiswahili niliwaachia class 2. Tulikuwa na mwalimu anaitwa John. Katuambia tuandike 1 mpaka 20 kwa Kiswahili. Na singeweza kuandika 4. I don't even know how to pronounce it. 4. Nikachapwa kiboko 10. Na Kiswahili kaishia hapo. Can you put it on the screen, the first screen? Sasa, the way Janet has spoken, it is very important that we look after our mental health. And everyone needs to look after their mental health, including us, the clinicians. Is it there now? I'm waiting for them to put the slides. As they do that, I can repeat my name. My parents gave me a name starting with J. The church, unfortunately I don't go to the Catholic Church, gave me a name starting with Eunice. Marriage dropped my father's name and gave me another one, Nyavanga. And school added for me, doctor. So my names are Dr. Eunice J. Nyavanga. I live around here. I work with Jamf Hospital. I like training a lot, and I train in rehabs. And maybe you have a rehab, or you're going to the rehab, and maybe you have not gotten a trainer. I do that a lot. Is it coming? Okay. Yeah, I'm being told the systems are down, So I'll use what I have here. So the first thing we need, what we should look at 7 things. The others will add to what I have said. We shall look at a few of the definitions to understand what health is. We shall look at the prevalence and incidence of mental illness. We shall look at the symptoms of mental illness. We shall look at the effects when we have mental illness. We shall look at the causes of mental illness. We shall look at the treatment of mental illness. And eventually, I will just talk about a few practitioners of mental illness. First of all, we'll ask ourselves, what is health? Now, health is that state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. We will also say the determinants of health are our human biology. There is our environment. And when we talk about the environment, our surroundings, the schools we go to, the parents we have, our neighbors, our lifestyles, which we normally choose, and healthcare services. Then, what is this thing we want to say, mental health? Mental health include our emotional, our psychological, and social well-being. It will affect the way we think. It will also affect the way we feel and the way we act. It also helps determine how we handle stress. And every day we have stresses, small ones and big ones. Even where you kept the keys is stress. And how we relate to others. How do we relate with others? Family, the workplace, at the church. And also how we make our own choices. And mental health is actually very important at every stage of life. From childhood, adolescence, even when we are adults. Now, mental health then, it can be revealed when we are able to cope and respond to stress. And like I said, we have so many stresses. Even when you have lost your keys, even when you have a traffic jam, like when I was coming here, I had a lot of traffic jam and I was getting late. And I was getting stressed. How do I handle it? The guy we were bypassing each other like this, it was a matatu, was actually getting upset and knocking at my car. How do I handle it? Do I open the window and speak to him? I chose not to and kept quiet. How we relate to family and friends, how we operate at home, at work, and school. And it is the state of successful performance of mental functions which results in fulfilling relationships, the ability to adapt to change. And there are always very many changes. In the workplace, sometimes you're transferred to another place. Sometimes you are demoted. Sometimes you are promoted. How do you handle this? And also to cope with adversity. When it is dry like now, there's adversity. There is no vegetables. How do we handle this? We can't get vegetables. We can't get greens. It is dry. We can't get milk. It is expensive. So then, what is then mental illness? These are health conditions involving changes in our emotions, our thinking, our behavior, or even a combination of all of them. And it is, when we say mental illness, it is a broad term. It describes a wide range of diagnosable illnesses that impairs a person's ability to think, to feel, and behave in that manner which allows optimum functioning in a day-to-day life. It is a disorder of the brain. Of course, we have many illnesses. Sometimes we have the illness of the stomach. We call it a stomach upset. We have the illness of the legs. We have illnesses on our hands. We have illnesses of malaria. But then the brain also gets sick. So when it gets sick and we have a disorder, then that results in the disruption of a person's thinking, the way they feel, their moods, and even the way they socialize. They are serious medical conditions which cannot be overcome through willpower and are not related to a person's character or intelligence. What I mean is sometimes when people have depression and they are not even able to wake up, they cannot even take a bath, we think the person's willpower can help them. But sometimes it's a serious illness. They cannot wake up. They cannot do those things anymore. They cannot think right. They cannot make decisions. They are mentally ill. And this mental illness strikes people at the prime. More likely, mental illness strikes, the first time, it strikes between 14 years and 25. So between 14 years, that is when we have our adolescents. And this is the time they are more likely to get mentally ill. I am not saying that children don't get mentally ill. They also do. But a person who will have a mental illness in their life must have a strike between at least 14 and 25. They are associated with distress or impaired functioning. And it includes a lot of human problems which we get to be able to get mental illness. They are associated with distress, or we can call them problems functioning socially, at work, or even in family activities. We call them mental disorders. We call them psychological disorders. We call them psychiatric disorders. We call them mental illnesses, mental disorders. It's just the same thing. Now, I said that these are diagnosable diseases, and there are over 200 types. Over 200 types. Maybe we have only learned more likely about depression, because it is the more common one. Anxiety, there is PTSD, there is ADHD, there is autism. Quite a number of them. There are about over 200 diagnosable illnesses. So what is then the prevalence? Oh, it has come to the screen, I'm happy. Mental illness is common in society. The milder conditions. It is associated with a significant burden of morbidity and disability. That means it makes us be disabled. It makes us even die. And according to the World Health Organization, serious health problems accounts for 11% of the total worldwide disease burden. I don't know how many we are here. Let's imagine we are 200. And I want to reduce from 11 to 10. 10% of us are more likely to have a mental illness. So how many people have a mental illness in 200 people? Mathematicians, help me. Someone to say 20 people. So if we are 200 here, 20 of us have a mental illness. If we are 10, How many people are there? At least one person. So mental illness is common, and it is the lifetime prevalence rates are increasing recently. From 11%, when I was going to school, they used to be 9%. They are now 11%. And doctors, I am sorry, we have our medical doctors here, are not able to diagnose mental illnesses. And when they are not able to diagnose the mental illnesses, then we do not get the treatment we need because they cannot diagnose. So they cannot be managed. So you continue with your mental illness and it has not been diagnosed at all. And most lifetime mental disorders, I already said, have their first onset by the age of 24 years. And these mental health problems have consequences. When we get mentally ill, we are more likely to take substances. People who are more likely to be mentally ill are more likely to take substances of abuse. And I want to explain this. When people abuse substances, I am not saying use, I have said abused substances. They are more likely, 75% of them have a mental illness. So it is like the egg and the chicken. You may not know which came first. Now, people who are mentally ill cannot be able to judge. They cannot be able to make correct choices. And they are in pain. So then they choose substances to reduce the pain they're going through. And eventually they get it too. Of course, when they choose to take substances, they abuse them and they get addicted to substances. So they continue taking the substances and they are mentally ill. What happens? We take our kids, our young people, our people to the rehab. And when you take them to the rehab, they will deal with the addiction. But they have not dealt, more likely they have not dealt with the mental illness they have. So they come back. And when they come back, they relapse. That means they take the substance again. It is because he still needs the substance to deal with the mental illness he has, because he has not been treated for mental illness, but treated for substance abuse. But what happened was, he first of all was mentally ill before he took the substances. Now, on the other hand, people who take substances of abuse then may abuse the substances, they get addicted, until now they spoil the brain. And when they spoil the brain, they become mentally ill. So they have two. So when you take them to the rehab, you do not know which one they will start with. We are okay? Yes. We are still on slide 14, we are okay? I'm only explaining something. So, eventually, the person gets mentally ill because of the substances. So, sometimes when someone is mentally ill, you do not know which one started first, whether it is the substance or the mental illness. People can have poor academic performance. Sometimes we take our children to school and eventually they have very poor grades in school. Maybe they have a mental illness. They have poor social relationships, and productivity at work also can be very, very poor. Now, there is greater frequency in the level of mental illnesses among inpatients. Go to the next one, 15. Than the outpatients. What am I saying? If you go to a hospital, research has shown, like Kenyatta National Hospital, people who go to Kenyatta National Hospital for medical treatment, any medical treatment, you will find that 41.2%, that was found in 2019, 41.2% are mentally ill. They have a mental illness. It could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could be substance abuse, it could be PTSD, it could be whatever it is. But what happens? the medical doctors may not be able to diagnose. So you are not even treated. You're treated for the other things. But then, mental illness is still with you. There is also a high prevalence of mental illnesses in the general medical facilities. But this is largely, as I said, undiagnosed and therefore unmanaged. People with chronic conditions have a higher comorbidity with mental disorders, especially depression and anxiety. Now, when you go to hospital, maybe you have HIV, maybe you have cancer, maybe you have diabetes, maybe you have high blood pressure. You are more likely also to have a mental illness because those are chronic illnesses. Can it be seen? Or it is gone? I wanted to show you a picture. Okay, that's fine. When we are ready, I can show them the picture. So evidence also in research has indicated that mental problems are most contributors of the burden of disease and disability worldwide. And out of 5 out of 10 leading causes of disability worldwide is mental health problems. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you are poor, whether you come from a low-income country, whether you come from the poorest of the poorest in Kenya, whether you live in Kibera, whether you live in Karen, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you come from a rich country like the UK. It doesn't matter whether you come from the US, where it is a rich country. It doesn't matter the gender, whether you are male or female. It doesn't also matter your social strata. It does not matter. Whether you go to this church, the other church, or the other one, mental illness gets everybody. And the predictions also indicate that the future will see dramatic increase. It is increasing. And especially during the COVID times, mental health really increased among people. Now, I'm not able to show you that diagram. I don't know whether it can come. When it comes, then I will show it to you. Now, then, what are then the symptoms? You're talking about mental illnesses. How do I know whether I have a mental illness? There are different ways, different mental illness symptoms, and it depends on the type of the mental illness. It depends on your age, and it also depends on your capacity. And the symptoms are mostly exhibited in the form of change. Change, there must be change in your emotional behavior, in your cognitive behavior, and in your physical body language. Emotional behavior, people, you can see them are always sad. They could even be crying without anything. So you see someone just cries over nothing. Cognitive behavior. Cognitive is about the way you think, the way you reason. It changes the way you think. You can even, some people can think that someone wants to harm you. Like this lady is sitting next to this one. If she had a mental illness and she had, and I'm not saying you do, if she had a mental illness and she thinks that there is something wrong, and she may think this one will bewitch her. So she will move away because she's actually thinking that someone will harm them, believing that an event happened because some other person was jealous. I give you an example. My son was doing KCPE in the 80s, I think. And according to some traditional culture, I think a woman doesn't go in front of the road before a man, because if a woman goes, they bring bad omen. So in the morning, I went to buy bread from the kiosk. And this woman saw me, had passed the road very early in the morning. And she actually, when the results came, her child did not pass, and mine went to a national school. And she believed that by me passing there, I had bewitched her child, who was going to go next to go to the school, passing the same road, because I was a woman, and her child was a boy, although mine was also a boy. So she actually believed that I had done the bewitching. Some will be hearing voices, and voices talking to them about do this, or voices telling them someone will harm you, and they'll be seeing things you do not see. Feelings of hopelessness and sadness. And also, they can have suicidal thoughts. They just feel they're hopeless. They need to just go out of this world. And you can see very many people these days are just hanging themselves because of situations in their lives, stressors, frustrations. It's unfortunate I have so many diagrams to show you and we cannot see them. The physical body language. Sometimes we have digestive problems. We have a backache. You go to the doctor, they give you this painkiller, the other one, they improve, it doesn't go. Fatigue, you're always tired. Then headache, which doesn't go even with anything, pain. Some people can have excessive sweat, sudden weight gain, can gain a lot of weight or lose a lot of weight, or a rapid heart rate. Some get dizzy. And you can see those ones, some of the symptoms of fatigue. So the change in emotional behavior, the thinking pattern, may lead to the following mental illnesses symptoms. So when your behavior changes, then people are likely to take substances, alcohol being one. They could have confused thinking. They could have delusions or hallucinations. That means delusions, they look at you and they see you, but to them, they have seen a dog. They don't see you as a person. Hallucinations, there is nothing here, and they are seeing that there is someone. And you will see some people speaking to nothing, and they are saying, there is someone there. They will even tell you they dreamt about this, and even that person died long ago. Sudden change to anger, people get angry, and you have seen some of the police recently have been shooting their wives and shooting others, and hostility or even violence, and excessive fearfulness and worry. They can also have sex drive changes in terms of they may want more sex or they may want less sex, and a feeling of sadness, depression, inability to cope with daily problems of stress, even looking for the keys itself. And the problem of sleep, suffering insomnia, they don't sleep, change of eating habits, withdrawal from friends and social activities. Now these symptoms will always be noticed by close friends, the family, the spouses, the teachers, and significant others. Now, number 4, we want to look at the effects of mental illness. When we get mental illness, what happens to us? How does it affect us? It affects the individual who is mentally ill. It affects the family of the individual who is mentally ill. It affects the community where that person comes from. And this is a church community. It will affect you guys. It will affect the workplace. It will even affect school life. To the individual, they'll have pain, they'll have isolation, loneliness, they'll blame themselves for the illness, they get discouraged, they're stigmatized, and they have discouragement, they have social problems, they cannot socialize with others, work and school performance goes down, and managing symptoms and steps to recovery will drain the individual. The next slide, please. And you can see some of the isolation people, pain and isolation. And you can see the lady on the left. She's in a lot of pain. And then you see the person on the right, always isolated somewhere else with nobody. It will affect the family. If we have parents or one of the parents having a mental illness, it will affect the children, because they are likely to inherit this mental illness. There is also the socio-economic disadvantage. This person is mentally ill. They're not going to work to earn enough. They're not going to make choices. So it will affect even the school of the child. There is always going to be marital conflicts leading to abuse and neglect. The children will have lack of attachment formation because they are not attached to the parent who is mentally ill. Lack of supportive relationships, difficulty in social relationships, poor coping skills in school and at home. They'll have maltreatment, especially if the parent has alcohol and other drug use problems. So imagine this person who is mentally ill. And it just reminds me when I was in primary school, there was one guy, I think he must have been mentally ill. He was also an alcoholic. He passes the school compound, sometimes with almost no clothes. And you are a child in that school. He has a child in that school. You can imagine what that child goes through. Every day that guy would pass through there with almost nothing, no clothes. He would have just a sheet and sometimes nothing. He's drunk and he's mentally ill. They will also, the children will have developmental delays. Who will talk to them to be able to speak? They have low academic competence and they are traumatized by imagine seeing your father in the primary school passing through the school without clothes. The children will be traumatized. How will it affect the others in the family? The family member with a mental illness are affected in the following ways. Constant worry, leading to stress and discouragement. Social problems, leading to isolation and withdrawal from society. Feelings of guilt and shame. You blame from the society because even people will be saying, that house who has a mentally ill child, that house who has an ADHD child, that house who has an autistic child, and you are stigmatized. You will not even bring that child to church because how do you bring a child who is mentally ill? It is very difficult. Isolation and loneliness, anxiety, family discord and breakthrough, including violence. If they have a child, for example, the father may say, in our family, we don't have this illness. It must be coming from yours. And the mother may be saying, this one does not belong here. So you can imagine what goes on in that family. And we may have co-occurring substance abuse because this father or this mother may decide to take to substances. How does it affect the community and the workplace and the school? The individuals face neighborhood safety problems. There is stigmatized. There is isolation, blame for the illness, low productivity, and low social economic status, unemployment. Imagine, she already said, if there's an HR, if they find you have depression, for example, they may not employ you because they will stigmatize against you. Poor housing and low academic competence. Okay, we are in slide number 39. Causes of mental illness. We've talked about all this, but what causes mental illness? What makes another person be mentally ill and not the other? Now, although the exact causes of most mental illnesses is not known, it is not known, but people who have done research have shown that many of these conditions are caused by a combination of our biology, the way our bodies have been made, our psychology, and our environmental factors. And I put it in short, just two things. Nature, the way you have been made. And the next one is nurture, the way you have been brought up. Not only by your parents, by your church, by your school, by your neighborhood. Most of it is inherited. And when it is inherited, it depends on what happens to you. You can have twins. One child is brought up elsewhere, another one is brought up elsewhere. It depends on, all of them have an inherited gene, the same gene, But it depends on who brought up the other one and who brought up the other one. One may have mental illness and one may not. Now, some of the biological causes, and I'll not go in detail about them, but abnormal imbalance of special chemicals in the brain. In our brain, we have neurotransmitters. If there is abnormality there, then it can cause mental illness because the cells in the brain cannot communicate properly. Your biology is your genetics, heredity. You may have inherited a gene from your great-great-great-grandfather. And many illnesses run in families. And then they can be triggered by factors such as stress. You have inherited it, but stress will trigger it so that we can see the symptoms. Medical conditions like infections, it is linked to the development of mental illnesses or even worsening the symptoms. Another one is other illnesses, chronic illnesses, we already said, HIV, AIDS, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, which are common in old age, because of chronic illnesses. Number 5 is the brain defects and injury. In parts of the brain, it may lead to some mental illnesses. Brain defects is you may have been born with a defect, just like people are born with a defect of their hands. So they may have no hand, they may have no legs, they may not have an eye. You can also be born with a defect in your brain. You can also get an injury, you get an accident, and your brain is damaged. Another cause is premature damage, when the child is being born, and there is then the disruption of early fetal brain development or trauma at the time of birth. So they lose oxygen. If they are born, they're being born. I don't know, I'm not a medic. The medics will tell you. When the child is born, and for some time, if they lose oxygen, then the brain can be damaged, and they are likely to get autism, for example. And also, when the child is developing, it depends on the nutrition you give them. We are being told we breastfeed for 6 months. Supposing we do not breastfeed fully for 6 months, what happens? We give them other things which may not develop the brain. So they are more likely to get a mental illness. So other factors are poor nutrition, like the lack of omega fatty acids, and even exposure to toxins like lead. Now imagine in our roads, we are planting sukuma wiki. I'm giving you an example. You're planting sukuma wiki along the road. And along this road, let's think about Mombasa Road. Along that Mombasa Road, or even this Namanga Road, there are very many lorries. They are passing there and emitting a lot of lead to your vegetables. They will look very nice, very green. Your sukumas will look very nice. And when you go to the market, you're actually looking at the very green ones. They have lead. And you come and feed your children with it. They are likely to get a mental illness because they're inhaling the lead in those vegetables. And the substance use, for example, if a mother is expecting, and of course they're taking alcohol or they're smoking, whatever substance they're taking, what happens? It is already spoiling the child, and they are more likely to get a mental illness. Even the father, when they are drinking, they drink or they smoke, whatever they smoke or whatever they take, then they come and breathe in to the child. They are more likely to get a mental illness. In the developed world, when a child is born, they always check that nobody in the home smokes. And the social workers keep coming to check every now and then to see whether someone is smoking. And the neighbors will even report. If you begin smoking outside there, for example, and you go back to the child, your neighbors will report you. and the child will be taken away. I wish we shall reach that particular time in this country. Psychological factors, severe psychological trauma suffered as a child. For example, emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. What I'm saying here is children who go through trauma. Children are being raped every day. It is really unfortunate. We don't even report them, but children are raped. They are sodomized every now and then. And you can imagine what they go through when they go through that at a very young age. And just think about the trauma we had in 2017. Was it? No, not 2017, 2007, 2008. Women were raped in Kibera. Children were raped. People were maimed. Those are a lot of traumas, and people are still going through a lot of those traumas. And there are people who are still coming for treatment. They still come to see us with that. I know I still have 4 people who was in the bomb blast of 1998 because of PTSD, because of the trauma they went through in the bomb blast. Traumas. Sexual abuse, an important early loss. Just imagine those children who lost their parents when they are young. And it's not just losing a parent. Even as you have age, you lose very many things. You may lose your wife, you lose your husband, you may lose property, you may lose a job. All those are losses. Neglect. Just imagine, even in marriages, the way we neglect each other. Of course, the counselor will tell you, I don't do a lot of counseling. The counselor will tell you how she may be able to see very many people who have been neglected. Maybe the wife has been neglected or the husband has been neglected. And you can imagine these people are going to be mentally ill. Poor ability to reduce, to relate to others, traumatic life events, loss, sexual abuse, and neglect. Then the environmental factors. Environmental factors is the surrounding, the way you were brought up. And certain environmental factors can trigger illness in a person who is likely to get a mental illness, like death and divorce. Some people you have seen, they have a death in the family and they can be mentally ill. Or they have been divorced and they get mentally ill. Or even a dysfunctional family life. So imagine this family which is neglecting themselves. Baba anakuja, akifika nyumbani, mama hata hajasema habari yako, hajampea hata chai, hata hajauliza ilikuwa namna gani. They start quarreling from as soon as he enters the door. Or this man who also enters the door doesn't care what happens to the wife. He has eaten nyama choma elsewhere. Just goes upstairs to sleep, never even greets the children. Living in poverty, feelings of inadequacy, low self-esteem, anger, anxiety, and loneliness. Changing of jobs and schools. And how many times do we change schools for our children? We bring them to St. Monica and then we think, oh, this one is not a good one. I do not know the schools around here because I don't have young children. Then you take them to another one, Acacia. You think it is better. They have lost their friends. Then you move again to another place. And you can also, some people move from house to house. They live here for 6 months. Then after 6 months, they've moved to another house. And that means new neighborhoods. Or they move to another one. You keep moving with your children. They'll be mentally ill. You keep moving them every now and then. And social or cultural expectations in a society is associated with beauty and can be a factor in the development of eating disorders. Of course, this has not happened here much, but it is beginning. Some people look at women, and in some cultures, women who are thin, I don't think I'm thin, thin, are seen by men as beautiful. So what do we do to look beautiful? We continue getting thin by not eating and by not eating and by not eating until we are almost bones. Already that is an eating disorder. And substance abuse by the person or the person's parents. Because if your parents are taking substances or one of your partners is taking substances, then you're likely to be mentally ill. Number 5. So what is the treatment? How do we treat this mental illness? And this is how we come as JAMF Hospital. Now, what we need to understand is when you go to see a medical doctor, a clinician, and you say all the things you are suffering from, they are likely to tell you, you go to the lab. They test whether you have malaria. They test whether you have HIV. But in mental illness, you cannot be sent to the lab for those. We will ask you questions, either because of a standardized test, or the questions which will ask you, which will make us get to know that you are likely to have this mental illness, to likely tell you the cause of what you have. We cannot send you to the lab. So sometimes we will give you a lot of questions to answer, a big exam, because we want to know what happened to you. Mental illness is different in that you cannot see. If someone has an injury, like they have a cut hand or a broken hand, then you can easily see and they say, this person has this. If they have a stomach upset, maybe they're holding their stomach and you can see. If they have a headache, you are almost able to see. But mental illness, you cannot see. You cannot likely see that the person is mentally ill. So the treatments can be subdivided. I have said 3, but I need to say 2 major ones and a 4th one. The first one is the somatic treatments. That is, you're given drug therapy, medications. You are also given, you can also be given electroconvulsive therapy. Or, number 2, you can be given psychotherapeutic treatments. The somatic treatments are given by the clinical doctors, those who studied medicine, and they can be able to identify and say, this is the medication for this illness. Psychotherapy is done by psychologists, be they counseling psychologists or clinical psychologists. Now, so we are actually saying it is biological or medical treatments. You can be given medications, all those medications, the doctor may speak about them. Or you can be given shock therapy or psychosurgery. Shock therapy is maybe if you have depression and you are not responding to anything. They will put something which has electricity into your brain and to your legs so that it shakes you a bit. It shakes the brain a bit so that it may work because it has stopped working. Or they can do surgery to remove what is making you mentally ill. Now, in psychotherapy, that is psychology-based treatment, you can be given cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, so that you can change your problem, or behavior therapy, or interpersonal psychotherapy to be able to focus on the interpersonal context. The third one, which the church can do as a community, is psychosocial support. This is a community support treatment which you need as a church. If you knew that someone in your church or in your community has mental illness, you need to give them support. And they can also join psychosocial support groups, other groups who have mental illness so that they know what to deal with. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is mental health practitioners. There are a number of mental health practitioners. Slide number 53. One are the psychiatrists. These are medical doctors. They studied medicine for 5 or 6 years. Then when they finished studying medicine, then they specialized in mental health. And they're called psychiatrists. We have very few of them. What they do is they are specialists in mental health. They diagnose and they give you medication. And sometimes offer a bit of psychotherapy and counseling, but not much. The others are psychologists, and there are quite a number of psychologists. The American Psychological Association has 52 branches. We seem to know counseling psychologists only. There are also clinical psychologists. Clinical psychologists like me, I studied psychology first before I came to specialize in mental health and substance abuse. And they will give you tests And the tests are the exams I told you. And you will do the test, we diagnose, we also do a treatment plan. And when we do the treatment plan, we can give to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist now can begin saying, okay, maybe they need this medication. But we shall also say they need medication, they need counseling, and maybe they need community support. And that is when we send them to the church and they say, this person belongs to this community. Maybe they need to see the community for the support. There are also psychiatrists, social workers. We don't have very many in this country. They do social work. And eventually they do a bit of psychiatrist. And they also can identify and train people about mental illness. And others, like the psychiatric nurses. You need to recover from mental health. Visit us at Jump Hospital in Kitengela. And you can also call us on those numbers, and you will get us, and we will help. You have heard about the symptoms. And maybe any of you could be having 1 or 2 symptoms of those. Call me directly on the second number. We shall talk. Thank you for listening to me today. It was an honor coming to the Catholic Church and speak to the community.
Thank you, Dr. Nyavanga. That is very enlightening. Kuna kitu tumesoma. You are seeing mental health management is a process. It's multi-sectorial. So before we land in Mathare, you see there are many steps that we have to go through. And everybody has a role in managing or supporting persons who are having issues with mental health. So time is far gone. We've heard from a clinical psychologist. So I would want to ask Martha to come and just share something short or small on depression. I know she'll be very fast. And then we'll have our self-care. It's so much. It's so much information, but you cannot present it in 2 hours. Sawa sawa? Martha.
So good afternoon. Just a minute as I try to project. So my name is Martha. Zimepotea. Just give me 1 second. So good afternoon once again. My name is Martha Kilonzo, a counseling psychologist. And besides that, I'm married and a mother of 3 girls. So it's my joy to be here this afternoon, even to present more on mental health. And my focus is on depression. I really wanted the starting slide there, because it's something which is very common with us. But again, we'll just allow it to flow as it is. Sometimes gadgets fail, but the word of the Lord doesn't fail. Sindio? And then the good things, ziko kwa kichwa. So mkiona nikiangalia, I'm just referring, because this is something that I've been doing for years. So you'll just allow me to go straight, Sawa sawa. So I'm told it's still not yet, but allow us just to go. So when you hear of depression, what comes into your mind? Mnanipata vizuri? Aha, when you hear of depression, what comes into your mind? Daktari ametupeleka through the mental health, mental wellness, mental illness, hizo zote. So when you hear of depression, it's just one among the many disorders that we have. And depression falls under mood disorder. So when we hear of depression, see, it's a common word. Ukitoka job umechelewa unasemanga aje? I'm depressed. Mkikosana na mama kidogo, I'm depressed. Watoto wasipofanya vizuri, what do we say? Niko depressed. So it's a common word in each and every one of us. But what does it mean? Have we been depressed at one point in our lives? Or you are hearing it for the first time? Let me not also assume, maybe it's your first time you're hearing. Is it our first time? We've heard of it, sindio? So when we talk of depression as a mood disorder, what are we talking about? Situkuwa interactive kidogo. And I think I only have like 15 or so minutes, but I'll be able to go through as I rush. Depression, si mnaisemanga? Yes, please. Sorry? Having low morale. Kutokuwa na interest. Is it common? Someone else to give us a trial? Yes? Kuwa na stress. You say you are stressed, and which is very common. Kama saizi jua, kuna watu wataki kutembea nje, si ndio? Allow me to use English and Swahili to bring it to our level. Sawa sawa. So you say you are stressed because of the sun, because of the heat. Hata kulala siku hizi mchana ni shida. Is it? Kutembea tu hapa. By the way, I was trying to get here. Na ile traffic iko hapo. Like daktari, I was almost getting irritated, but then I said, I won't allow this one. Bado nitafika. Na si nilifika on time. So when we talk of depression, I won't allow us to go back again to naming them. It's that condition, it's that process, it's that place whereby you feel like you are stressed in a layman's language. But according to WHO, World Health Organization, they define depression as a common mental disorder that presents with depressed moods. And when you talk of depressed moods, the first one said, loss of interest. Loss of interest. Hauna interest na maisha kabisa. Umefika pale chini. You don't even want to wake up to go to your place of work. Hautaki kwenda hata biashara. Hata hutaki kuongea. You are always moody. That is loss of interest or even pleasure. The things that you love doing. But again, I'll put a disclaimer. See, it is just a one-off. It has to be persistent. 1 to 2 weeks. If you have the signs and symptoms that I'm going to be sharing here later, then you'll now know you are a case of depression. Not all of us, and I was asking, maybe in one way or another we've been depressed. We are just coming out of COVID season, whereby we were staying in the house, and we were not used of being in the house. Imagine COVID restricted us to be in the house. Maybe you also restricted without job. What happened? You started losing pleasure. Utaki hata kuamka uende hata ufanye kakitu. The things that you loved. So according to WHO, it is that the depressed mood, loss of interest or pleasure, feeling of guilty. You're always feeling guilty. Low self-worth. Imagine you came here on time, but the fact that you entered here, you found maybe the priest preaching. You're like, maybe ni mimi anaongelelea. Na umefika tu saa hizi. You're always feeling guilty. Hiyo kitu ni mimi anasema. Kwani nani alimwambia my life? Nani alimpea stories zangu? You see? Maybe, I'm not saying you are. Maybe you're in the process. Always feeling guilty. Then always feeling your self-worth. You can't even stand in front of people. You can't even talk. You are called by chamas at home. You are called by barazas. What will I go and say? How will it be? It's like, they are always about me. So, and then we also have another thing, how the WHO describe it, disturbed sleep. You don't sleep. We are supposed to sleep 8 hours. I know Kenya, we are really hustling. But imagine you just need 8 hours faithfully. Just sleep well. But what happens? You toss in that bed, unatoss mpaka asubuhi. Then when you wake up in the morning, we ask you, what were you doing? Aki sijalala. And you just need to surrender. To surrender, sindio? To God, then just sleep. Then the other one is loss of appetite. And this could be either loss of appetite or you are even overeating. Unasikia tu kukula. As I was coming, I saw miwa. I love miwa sana, sugarcane. And I was saying, si ningekuwa tu sijachelewa kidogo nisimame. But for you, for me at least I'm aware. I just hope nitawapata as I go back, you know. But for you, miwa, maembe, nanasi, you just want to pick everything. And even as you come here, I don't know whether here they give tea. In our church where I worship, they give tea. Unangojea tu hiyo time uende ukunywe hiyo chai. Na si tuja kunywa chai nyumbani. Si eti hata utakunywa chai ukienda home, but you just want to overeat, to overdrink. These, among others, are signs leading to depression. And then low energy. You are just there. You don't have any interest in anything. And then poor concentration. Right now, we are just discussing about mental health, depression, which I've picked, and you are just there. Ata, connect, what did I start? Na niko wapi? You are just there. So, lack of poor concentration. And then we are also saying depression is a medical condition that affects your mood and ability to function. I think Daktari alluded to that. And then depression is one of the most common types of mental health conditions and often develops alongside anxiety. Again, anxiety is a panic attacks. It's another type of mental health. But in our talk today, we focus on depression. Then we are saying depression can be mild. Remember, I've said it starts. It's like it's a journey. See, leo tu uta lose interest, and then we say you are depressed. There is the mild, lack of interest, 1 day, 2 days, then it goes 1 week. Could be mild. Then we go to the severe. There is the moderate, and then there is the severe. Moderate, equal to, you even start withdrawing, you start not wanting to stay even in your house. But now the severe one is sasa ndio una withdraw proper. Nothing makes sense to you. You are always irritated. You are always banging the door. You are always late to work. You remember I've said lack of interest. Now that is what is developing. And then depression occurs in persons of all gender. Aichagui. Of all gender, ages, and background. Hata watu wako Karen. Na nimesema si disclaimer. They also get depression. Hata ule ako Kiang'ombe, they get depression. Mkubwa, mdogo. I'll be giving you some signs and symptoms and also what causes this depression. Then we look at, and then we're saying depression is a disorder of the brain. It's all in the brain. This is where this disorder starts. Sawa sawa. Then we are talking about facts about depression based on WHO. Depression is a common mental disorder. Globally, it is estimated 5% suffer. So I'm not so sure whether the 5% wako hapa ama wako huko nje. Just a thought. Sindio? Hatuko hapa, tuko huko nje. Sawa sawa. Thank you even for coming to hear this. Then most women are affected by depression than men. Again, disclaimer, most women. This is according to WHO. Then depression can lead to suicide. You start withdrawing, you start misusing substance abuse, you start kukorofishana na mama na watoto, and the other way. Then what happens? You start thinking of suicidal thoughts. Then there is an effective treatment for mild, moderate, and severe depression. So we want to look at the symptoms of depression. We have fatigue, or even sadness, or unhappy. Unakuanga tu umechoka. I just gave an example. You sleep, but ukiamka umechoka. Ni nini inakufanya uchoke? Yet at night you're supposed to be just sleeping and relaxing. It's okay, there is the traffic, Lucky nowadays we have the expressway for those who can be able to. But you are always tired. You are always negative, the negative energy. Nothing to you makes sense. This is a sign of depression. Then you are always irritable or frustrated. Hakuna kitu kwako makes sense. And remember, this is not a one-day sign. It is a consistent one, 1 to 2 weeks. Then loss of interest, as I said. Then another one, reduced sex drive. Autaki, maybe you are married, for the couples, you just want to avoid. If it becomes consistent, then there's an issue to check on that. Then insomnia or even excess sleeping. You don't have sleep or you even oversleep. Leo sitaamuka nitalala kabisa hata kesho. Then it becomes like a routine. Then you also don't shower. You don't shower, you don't even prepare your room, you don't prepare anything, you are less concerned. We have children, wanakuuliza utakula nini? Those are signs. Is it common? My friends there wanacheka kabisa. Is it common? Ama mtu anakuambia si uende soko ukanunue food. Imagine unaambia mtoi mdogo akanunue chakula, yet you are the caregiver, the immediate caregiver. Those are signs. If they are persistent, then change in appetite. This one again and again. Ama you are either overeating or you are not doing it. Then causes. We have traumatic events, and Daktari mentions either you are involved in an accident or even you witnessed, or even the pandemic that we are just coming out of, or even probably you experience child abuse, domestic violence, either at home or even at your places of work, the SGBV. Imagine you go through this. These are all traumatic events. Then sleeping problem, then we have stressful life events. Stressful life events, breaking up, separation, divorce, all this, they will make you, they are causes of depression. Then we have failing exams, we have death or even illness, and when you talk of illness, those who are nursing, we are nursing, what do we call it? We are nursing terminal illnesses cases, like cancer. They drain you to a point you feel like, what? Now this can also lead to depression. The use of alcohol or even drug abuse. Then we have certain medical conditions like diabetes, cancer, or even long-term pains, which we classify them as long-term illnesses. Then we have certain medications. There are those who are just subjected to different medications. Probably it's high blood pressure, and you have to take it like every other day. In itself, kukunywa your dawa, it is a stress. So you will be taking complaining. You will be taking, to at some point, you just want to do away without it. That is a cause. Then childhood abuse or even neglect. Ulikuwa mtoto, but you were given roles to be a mother, to be a father, to be the firstborn. Zote, childhood experiences, childhood abuse. Either you are either sexually abused or you just went through domestic violence when you experience such happening to your parents. Then job loss. We're just in that season again. Bado COVID imeisha, but people are trying to stabilize. So you go through loss. You don't want to adjust. Maybe you are an MD. Don't want to move from MD to now this place of lack of job. So you keep on navigating there. Unatumia ile pesa ulikuwa nayo inaisha. Na bado job ijakam. So what happens? You lead into depression. And then now isolation. Remember now you used to have your friends at your place of work. Now you are on your own. See your job imeisha. You need to adjust. Make new friends at St. Monica. Make new friends at Kitengela. But you still want to be there. What will happen to you? It leads to depression. Then we have interventions. In the event, either I've mentioned 1 or 2 or even 3 that you've gone through this. After, and you've identified the signs, you've identified causes. What are we saying as an hospital? We have interventions. We have treatment plan. What do? Seek medical attention. CHAF is located at EPZ. Sawa, our numbers were shared there. Then the other one, talk therapy or counseling consultation. This is what I do. I have worked with different people going through issues. Among them, zenye nimemention, we've been able to work and come up with a solution on how they are going to navigate, how they are going to see life and move holistic. Then we also say in self-care and lifestyle change. Self-care and lifestyle change begins with you. What do you want? Because at the end of it, it is your life. It's not Martha, it is your life. So take care of your life, take care of your thoughts, take care of your emotions, and then the behavior that comes along with that. Then get social support. Get social support. Social support could be your immediate family members, the people that you work with, could it be in schools, the people that are close to you. And if need be, there are those cases whereby we just advise or we suggest, join a support group. I believe in St. Monica, there are those Zawa Mama and even Wababa. Sindio, join those, let them work with you. And then know that this is just a one-off issue. Could be yours is even better than the one that you're joining. If you're feeling stuck, don't hesitate to talk to a trusted family member or even friend, or even seek out new connection at a depressed support group. Let's go to conclusion. We are saying depression affects each person in different ways. And we've said that depression is also inherited. So imagine kama uko depressed now, but I don't believe here we have. You can pass it to your children. And then it becomes like it's like a family tree. See, we can break it. Let's start with us. We break it so that we don't pass it to the next generation. The exact cause of depression is not known. So we've just given you, according to what WHO have given, even other researchers who are still ongoing. Many research believe that it is caused by a chemical change in the brain. Again, it all starts in the brain. This may be due to a problem with your genes or triggered by certain stressful events. Then in conclusion, we are saying, ask for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. And it won't mean you are a burden to others. Often, the simple act of talking to someone face to face can be of help. Finally, we are saying mental illness is not a life sentence. And mental health illness happens to people who are normal, exhibiting normal behaviors the way we are. Sawa. So let's seek help. Let's seek help and support. Finally, sijui ama nini nataka tuisome si wote. Recovery is a process. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes hard work. It takes everything you've got. But it is possible. Is it possible to read all of us? 1, 2, 3. So internalize that, get to know that recovery is a process. You can put, instead of recovery, depression is a process. For you to heal, it will take time, but it also takes patience, either for you or the people that you are living with. It's my prayer that this talk has put an impact on you, and if you need to reach us, we can share our cards after this, but you are most welcome. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Martha, very much. Time is far much gone. I can see preparation for the next service is to be done. So, Dr. Martha, come shortly. Dr. Mbatha is our MO in charge of the facility. Please invite people to our facility.
Good evening. Hamjambo. Mimi ni Mkatoliki, kuzaliwa, kubatizwa na mpaka kipaimara. Nimeshiriki Mombasa, nilikuwa diocese ya Ukunda, Diani. So mimi ni Mkatoliki damu na nimekuwa nikija hapa St. Monica, but kwa sasa nataka ni join jumuiya, nikuwe na shiriki na ninyi ibada. Na wakaribisha sana Chanif Hospital, iko hapa karibu EPZ, tuhudumie nyinyi community yetu. Thank you.
So now, after we've had all that, as the priest is preparing, what are we going home with? The slides on self-care quickly. Self-care. Because when I'm going home, so what? Unajua saa zingine sisi tunaongea mambo mingi sana health, lakini si unataka ile tu utaenda nayo nyumbani ikusaidie, si ndio? Sawa. Self-care please. Anyway. So self-care is just as it is, self-care, si ndio? So the reason why our self-care is important is because what are these activities that we'll undertake to restore back energy? You see, depression has taken away your energy, your joy, your relationships. How do we come back to normal, to be functional? We've been told that you can get medication, you can do counseling and all that. So what is the point of self-care? We want to increase our enjoyment, isn't it? We want to cope with stressful events. We want to achieve our goals. We want to go back to our normal lives. So self-care is about looking after yourself. Physically, relationships. How do we make sure that you're able to go back and do our work? So why is mental health and well-being important? Because we want to have healthier lifestyles. We want to have our physical health back. We want to have greater productivity because life has to continue. We want to have better relationships. I'm running because our time is far much gone. So what are these self-care activities? Mindfulness, gratitude, nurturing relationship, self-awareness. So when you're looking at gratitude, what are we looking at? It's just being thankful. Benefits. When you become thankful, we are told count your blessings, name them one by one. Are we able to enlist what are your blessings are? Just being alive in itself is a blessing. Can you imagine you're waking up and you are realizing, so I'm alive. I can step down. And after stepping down, I can feel that my bladder is full. I need to go to the toilet. Somebody else is not able to do that somewhere else. Therefore, they become incontinent. Are you seeing all that? So those small things that you can do, that you can even be able to put food in your mouth and eat and taste it. There's somebody else who can do that. So the gratitude. The mindfulness. What are the benefits of that? It will reduce your stress. It will enhance your relationship. You'll be able to learn better. You'll be able to regulate yourself. Self-awareness. So I want to go maybe quickly to the last slide, maybe, so that we finish. There are so many cares that we want to look at. The last slide that we are looking at, the physical. The very last slide. Physical, we want to sleep. We would want to sleep, you sleep better, at least make sure you sleep. The biggest problem we have, some of us when we sleep, our phones are under the pillow. So you are checking, updating status. So you never sleep. You have to sleep. I'm not saying you switch off your phones because somebody might be looking for you, but put it aside and sleep. Lala. Unasikia kulala? I've seen this with many breastfeeding mothers. They lack milk because the hormone responsible for milk is prolactin, and it's produced when you're sleeping. Lakini aweke kamtoto update nini alafu anakuja ananiambia na maziwa aje. So tuweke simu tulale, sleep. Take a walk. Exercise. Nutrition. What is this that you like? Emotional. How do we manage our stress? We have good stress and bad stress. You see, even for us to breathe, there must be some stress, isn't it? So, how do we manage our stress? There is need for us to have compassion. How do we handle the other person who we know they are sick? Compassion is very important. The Lord Jesus himself was compassionate and remains compassionate to us. So can we pass that love and be compassionate? There is need for us to be able to write, journaling, write. When this happened, what was happening? You should be able to write and write and write. Journaling is important. Your social, how do you, your circles, who are your support systems? Spiritual, we are spiritual beings. Are we able to strengthen our connections with God? Our personal, how do you plan your time? Your hobbies, your space, your safety is very important. Your environment. Sometimes you have to declutter your house. Some of you, when you move from one house to the other, huwa mna move na uchafu tu. Mna move tu na viatu zenye hata mungetupa. Those are some of the things that even occupy your space. Rearrange your place, you know. You might need to move your bed maybe where there is a window so that you can be looking outside, you know. So many things. And then also financial situations. How do we get financial discipline? That's a whole topic on itself. And then work. Work. Our Lord, God himself, worked for 6 days and there was a rest on the 7th day. So rest is very important. It's very important for you to rejuvenate, for you to reflect, for you to be able to find out who you are. So we cannot finish doing everything. I wish we had more time, but this is a whole seminar. At least you've just had a tip of how we can be able to work together. As we have said, you are welcome to our facility. We'll be able to support you. We'll be able to work with you. And another thing that you have to know is that we have to be intentional. That it is your responsibility to take care of your own health. And it's a journey. It takes time. It's expensive. But health, is there something that can be compared to health in terms of money? No. How do we work together and support one another? Once again, I say thank you to the leadership of St. Monica Church for giving us this opportunity to share. Thank you so much for all of you coming to listen to us. We are humbled. And we, as the Lord enables us, we'll be able to share more. We'll be out here in case you want one-on-one, you want to make some connections on how we can be able to support you, we'll be able to help you on that. Yeah, so besides doing that, our hospital is an 24-hour. We do a lot of school health, disability mainstreaming in schools, autism and all that. We also have those experts who we work with there. So you can reach us and see how we can support you. Thank you so much, Rose, for the Lord allowing us to meet where we met, and I know we are going to do more. Thank you so much, my colleagues, for being here. And please clap for yourselves for being available. And also the online people who connected, we can clap them. God bless you. God bless you very much. Asante sana.
Warudi, wasirudi? Eh? Did I make a good choice? Did we make a choice? Yeah, so ningependa watu wawili watatu waulize swali. Si vizuri tu kusikiza kutoka kwao na sisi hatutaki kupeana feedback. Si ni vizuri tuulize swali moja au mbili ndio pia tuwaeke kwa mtihani. Anybody with a burning question?
Tumsifu Yesu Kristo. So niko na swali mbili. Ya kwanza ni one of the speakers ameongelea about good. Tumsifu Yesu Kristo. My name is Oscar. I'm a parishioner here. Now, one of the speakers ameongelea about good and bad stress. So ningependelea clarify more. And then the second question is kuna hizi disorders mingi za mental health, anxiety, stress, depression. So it could be better like tujue which is which na severity yake, yani stage, yani anxiety iko kiwango gani ama depression, yani which is worse among those, ni gani ambayo si mbaya sana ama yeah. Thank you.
I hope you are taking note of the questions. Haya, mwingine?
Good afternoon. Because you have told us people who are going through mental health, they need our support. How do we support them without our emotion being entangled in their problems?
Mungu ni mwema na kila wakati. Kwangu ni shukrani. Nimefurahia sana na yale mafunzo wameweza kutupatia, na kuna challenges, vitu zingine zenye wameongelelea yenye nimeona ni muhimu sana. Wakati mwingine kwa nyumba unakota mtoto haperform, unaanza kumchapa, unamshautia, lakini hujui ni nini inaendelea. Wametueleza vizuri sana. Wakati mwingine ni sisi tunafanya hiyo, wakati mwingine ni vile tunaishi kwa nyumba yetu. As a hospital, I believe they have consultation fee. I don't think it is an institution, walk in, walk out. It would be nice for you to also let us know your charges, your time and everything, because you cannot just walk to check, I want to go and find out what they do and how much they charge. It will cost you. Kindly give us those information. Otherwise, we are truly grateful. Thank you. Come again.
Tumsifu Yesu Kristo. Mine is a request. Kama tunaweza pata those notes through our churches groups, it would be very important.
God is good and all the time. Mine is a question that concerns the neonatal, the unborn baby. I wanted to know if what psychosocial issues or the behavioral issues, you have mentioned a few that can affect the unborn child. Mostly, I'm asking this for the mothers to be and the pregnant mothers.
Good evening. My question is, does misuse of drug cause mental illness? Sometimes we say, huyu ni bangi tu. So does that one cause mental illness or depression?
Oh, hajaongea kwa sauti. Haya.
Langu ni kuuliza, does misuse of drugs cause depression? Sometimes we do say, huyu ni bangi tu. So does marijuana cause, ama the other drugs cause mental illness or depression? Thank you.
I believe, Daktari, you can take those questions and then you summarize.
Thank you for your questions. So we will quickly run through. Dr. Nyavanga, you want to?
Let me start from the bottom, okay? This guy asked that the misuse of drugs, can it cause depression? Now remember we said that mental illness, which depression is included, is like chicken and the egg. Sometimes we do not know which one came first. You could have inherited a gene of mental illness from your great-great-great-grandfather. And when you take, because of that mental illness, you may decide to take substances, use substances, and eventually abuse it. So it triggers the mental illness. Or you may be mentally ill already, and you begin, because you cannot make decisions, you begin to use substances. Then you have both. So we cannot really say that the using of substances causes mental illness. Maybe you already have a mental illness, and because you want to reduce the pain, you take the substances and you have the two. I hope I've answered that one. Then there is the one of the developing child. Now I said that children, even when they're still in the mother's womb, can develop mental illnesses. Why? Because the parents, not only the mother, even the father is taking substances. And I gave you the example of abroad, where you are not allowed, even when you're pregnant or when you get the child, to take any substances, especially smoking, because it will spoil the development of the child. So if you are a mother and you're already taking alcohol, then the development of the child will be destroyed. Then they are more likely to get a mental illness. Number 3, Janet will answer that one. And number 1 and 2, I'll ask Martha to answer. I just wish, like I said, I just wish we had more time to be able to explain many things. It was a very short time. We have a lot of information to give to you and a lot of examples.
Thank you, Daktari. So number 2 was, how do we support people with mental stresses? First, you need to be aware that I've just said mental illness, mental health is just a normal condition. And it doesn't happen to the sick, just normal. So you need just to know that is it. Then the next thing, get to know that it is a process. The moment you have identified this person is going through a mental issue, again, don't label them. Usiwaite wenda wazimu, usiwaite kichwa ngumu, just don't label them. So just get to know what kind of a mental health are they going through, then support them with that. How do you support them? Taking them to the hospital. Before hata ifike stages, bring them for therapy, talk therapy, counseling. Then now after that, we'll be able to give you ways on how you can be able to support them. Do they need now to be seen by the clinician? Do they need now to go to an extent of even being admitted? Don't rush. Then support them either financially. In our slides, I skipped barriers. One of them is finances. So support them financially, support them even being there for them. And we have another condition called bipolar. It is also a mood disorder. Support them. Once in a while they are high, another time they are low. So it is for you just to know, this is a person who is going through an issue in life. Let me just walk with them this journey. And you know what? God is also going to help you as you walk with them. I think it's clear. Then the next one is good and bad stress. I think you're asking about, there are those good stress. You know, a good stress, I'll give an example, then I'll answer. A good stress is like, I'm supposed to be here at 5 for the mass. That's a good stress. A bad stress, ni ile, nitatoa wapi hiyo pesa? Nitaenda kuiba? Nitapiga mtu ngeta? I think now that answers a good and a bad. There's also another question you asked about the different levels of the anxiety. How do you distinguish them? So ziko mingi sana. Ziko mingi, again, as Daktari is saying, we need like a whole day to take you through this. Kuna panic, kuna depression, then kuna schizophrenia. Ile mnasemanga wanakota makaratasi wanaenda wakitupa. And I've said what? Let's not label them. Let's just allow them. You can imagine mtu akisema we ni mwenda wazimu. How would that one be? So let's also guard our mouth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Madam, you had asked about our consultation fees. At Chani Hospital at the moment, we are now NHF accredited, right? And various charges, we have also people with insurances who their negotiations are different. So when you come in and maybe you're paying cash, for our consultation, you'll pay 500. And then when you go and see the, let's say, Dr. Nyavanga will give you their charges because you are first seen by a clinician, us, isn't it? Then we refer you. So when we refer you, you'll find our sessions range between 2,000 to 5,000, right? They range between that because there are sessions, each session, depending, kila mtu akona their magnitude and their plan. That's why there is a plan. So you might have one whereby you sit with a counselor and you're paying either 2,000 or 2,500, and as you sit with the psychiatrist or the clinical psychologist, we are paying between 3,500 to 5,000. So it all depends. So when you come, we are able to discuss that. And there are some people with covers that cover that, and that's why we are saying we are hoping that NHIF can be able to take care of that. But the initial consultation, if you're NHIF covered, we'll consult for you. And if you're coming in with cash, we'll be able to know this is a case that needs a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't know if I've answered you. Thank you. So, sorry, now as a reproductive health specialist, please, some of these things, like what Daktari said was, the need for pregnant women to start their clinics very early is very, very crucial. The need for you to eat right, everything starts and ends with nutrition, is very, very crucial. Sawa sawa? So hiyo tutaendelea huko nje. Asante.
Asante sana Daktari and the facilitators all. But before you leave, tuko na kazawadi kasmart sana kwa parish yetu. We want to give you the kazawadi so that we continue with the evangelization and taking the word to the next level. Hillary, where is the zawadi? Kila mtu apate yogurt. So, in short, this is a Tetra Pak. We are in Lent season, and we take care of the needy kwa kujinyima ile kidogo ambayo tumejaliwa. Maybe leo you want to go walking, unasema ile pesa ya mafuta unasave, unaeka hapa ndani. And then after Easter, we come and celebrate together with you. Isn't it a good present?
Thank you for that, Zawadi. Thank you for the team, Janet, together with your team, for coming and sharing with us the knowledge. We all need it. The Bible speaks about mental illness. When you read Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 28, God says, I'll strike with you madness and blindness and confusion of heart. You know, all these things, they come in the issue of mental health. And at times, the decisions we make can also bring that turmoil. Just experience of Jonas, when God calls him, go and do this, and then he decides to go to the opposite direction. We understand what he went through. So when we are not in harmony with ourselves, either physically or emotionally, at times these mental issues, they come in. At times when we hurt someone and we have not gone to reconcile, mental disturbance comes in. So healing is possible. Spiritual healing is possible through forgiveness, letting go. There are so many things we hold on. And the things we hold on, they don't add value to our lives. Unless we let go, we are going to have more cases of stress, depression, anxiety, and all that. So I pray that whatever that has been sown in us today, the seeds that we have heard from our brothers and sisters, they are going to bear fruit, they are going to empower us, and also to help us to help others. Sindio? Tuwapigie makofi wote. Asanteni sana. Thank you. We can stand up for the final blessing because we are just in a few moments away from us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God Almighty Father, we thank you for the knowledge you have shared, that you have received. We thank you for your servants. They dedicated this day to come and be with us here. For the work that they have done, bring it to perfection. Where we have fallen short of your graces because of our humanity, we ask for forgiveness. And as they walk out of this place, going to their various destinations, continuing their endeavors, continue blessing them. Show them your way, and through the power of the Holy Spirit, continue using them as your fragile instruments of healing to our brothers and sisters. And all of us, may we become ambassadors of hope, ambassadors of good health, both mental, spiritual, and even psychological. The Lord be with you. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go forth in peace. Be ambassadors of good health mentally. Sasa, take care of your mental health, and as I take care of mine as well. Asanteni.